so you'll be here for at least another couple of years. So you don't want to just to let you know that, I don't know if, like I said, if, just not to appoint somebody that may not be here in 2023.
So this also says that we elect the officers the first meeting of the calendar year. Does that mean that we really elect these people in the chairperson and vice chairperson? We do that in December, or we do that in January?
Last time I think we did it in December. So
Okay.
everybody knew starting 2023 who's gonna be where.
Okay, it was a year ago, I couldn't remember.
That's the intent of doing it December.
So did you say my term was up in 2023?
January 2023.
So then I would be done
No, you can be reappointed.
tonight?
Not tonight, city council has to reappoint you.
Yeah, you'd have to open the thing and you like apply again and tell them you're still interested.
Oh, okay. So where do we go from here tonight?
So tonight, you need to elect a chairman and vice chairman, knowing that it will be Commissioner Plan, Chairman Coleman, and Commissioner Augustine. The people that we know at this time that will be in 2023.
Oh, okay.
Because about Commissioner Grant, I don't know if he's gonna seek reappointment or not. I know Commissioner Williams is not. So we're down to 3 basically, since there is a unknown at this point.
I am good with Commissioner Coleman staying chairperson. I will,
How about you?
It's fine.
I mean, how about vice chair?
if,
Working? Hello? Yeah, that's fine if you guys are fine with that.
if you want vice chair, you're good.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay, so can I get a motion to, is it to appoint?
I would
Is that the right
motion
word?
Chairman Coleman to stay chairman and Commissioner Augustine to be vice chair. I would motion that.
Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion was made by Commissioner Plon, seconded by Commissioner Augustine to elect Chairperson Coleman and Vice Chairperson Augustine. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good job.
Okay, we go on to discussion items. Electric rate study.
Yeah, I put together a PowerPoint presentation to summarize what was done over the past year with the electric rate study. I didn't want to go into the actual calculations and everything else, so this is a view, a 30,000 feet view of what was done this year. So in 2018, there was a rate study done, and the forecast directives included to cover the cost of services that was accomplished during the study, a cost allocation by rate class that was accomplished to maintain a 25% fund balance. Right now, we're still above the 25%. Simplify the existing rate structures that was accomplished, and eliminate step rates that was also accomplished. The approved rate class of customers were reduced to residential, commercial, small, medium, and large, also known the largest industrial, school district 231, and interdepartmental. On the residential rates, there was a 4.1% reduction. The rate went from 0.10819 per kilowatt hour to 0.1038 per kilowatt hour. That's a 4.1% reduction. And all the rate study changes were implemented effective January 1st, 2020. Any questions? In an effort to maintain a 25% fund balance and offset future wastewater rate increases, City Council directed staff to reduce the electric residential rate. On the graph, I'm showing the electric fund balance from 2020 to 2027. 2020 and 2021 are actuals. 2022 is a projected, and 2023 to 2027 is a forecast. What I intend to show here is the fund balance continues to grow. And you will see on 2027 it's close to maybe $24 million. So staff met for several times, and after a lot of discussion, it was determined that the best way to reduce the electric fund balance was to implement the following countermeasures. One is eliminate the PCA. That's the, every month on your electric bill, there is a charge for any electric that was above the base rate. That will apply to all customers. The second countermeasure is to reduce the service charge by $4. Right now it's $6.72, so it'll be $2.72. That would apply to all customers. On the actual forecast, any CIP projects will be paid with cash instead of issuing debt. And on the residential rate, there will be a reduction of 2% on 2023 and potentially an additional 2% on 2024. What the reason I'm saying potentially is that after 1 year, after the end of 2023, the staff will get together and analyze where we stand with the fund balance. If the fund balance is meeting the forecast, then we can implement the additional 2% in 2024. All of this is keeping the fund reserve at 25% plus a capital reserve. In a few years ago, the Electric Utility Board set up a capital reserve. It's about $3.2 million. The purpose of the capital reserve was to have enough money to replace a damaged turbine or any equipment that can result of that can be damaged as a result of a tornado or any unknown event. So that reserve in there since for the past 6-7 years. Any questions?
So the growth is primarily due to growth of the city?
Correct. I will say that most of the increase is due to new development.
And
That includes, so new development brings a additional revenues, and we've seen a increase since 2020 on new developments or new homes.
And if I'm understanding this, with the increase, it's gonna make the electricity cheaper for people, and that could then increase, make it more attractive to come here because it's cheaper,
right.
which will then increase even more.
So I'm just trying to internalize it. The people that paid the higher rates, then those those bonds will be retired by people paying cheaper rates.
Don't follow.
Bonds.
Well, to finance these rates, you sell bonds, right?
to finance projects, we usually raise bonds.
Yeah,
But since we have an excess of reserves, we like to pay cash out of the fund so we can reduce the fund balance.
okay.
I have a question. Could you explain to me how you keep a fund reserve of 25%? What does that exactly mean, 25%?
So let's say that we forecast a fund balance of 10 million. We should have 10 million will be 2.5 million on reserve to cover any. Let's say that there's no income, no revenues coming in for whatever reason. So we have an excess of cash that we can pay salaries, any energy that we buy from KMEA, and there's one more. But we need to have a reserve so we can pay our bills.
And how do you determine the 25% number?
On the past rate study we've done with water and wastewater, we use 25%. So to make it standard, we use the same amount for the electric.
But how do you come up with a number? 25% of what number to get a number?
It is just I'll say, common practice.
Well, I think she's saying like.
Is it a projected amount you're gonna
25%.
spend that year? Like you said, 10 million. I think what you're trying to say,
No,
you're saying
no.
10 million is what you're gonna spend, you wanna have 25% of that.
As a reserve to pay bills.
Correct. So you're projecting you're going to be spending, your budget's gonna be 10 million for the year.
No, I'm saying the reserve is 10 million for the forecast fund reserve, sorry. The forecast fund balance is 10 million.
Okay.
So out of the 10 million, we need to reserve 25% of that.
So you have an extra 25% on like a side account. Like, I have this bank account.
So savings.
So basically, we cannot touch 25% of that fund.
Correct, okay.
And I made a graph to explain that.
Yeah, that's what I think you were trying to.
So the forecast fund balance that the graph was that you made, you retain 25% of that number.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a reserve for paying any future bills
For emergency.
for emergencies.
The turbine blows up or.
That's a capital reserve.
If a transformer goes bad, to quickly be able to replace it and stuff.
So the capital reserve you have can only be used for a capital improvement project.
That can be only the capital reserve for generation equipment.
Does
Gas
that need to
turbine,
be
transformer.
increased? Is that sufficient? That capital reserve?
So with $3 million, you can buy maybe 2 used gas turbines to replace what we have. Then you'll have an additional $1 million for the actual installation. So 3 million, I think, is reasonable. However, that number I need to make sure is still a good number. I don't have the information right now, but 3 million seems reasonable right now.
And how do you determine which capital improvement projects will be funded by cash? How is that determined?
That's all the projects in 2023, 24, 25, 26, 27.
How do you determine which ones will be paid by cash?
Just because we have the excess funds to pay it.
All of them.
They're gonna do all of
Well, I
them.
mean,
So let me
so-
let me show you the graph, and
Okay.
that will make more sense. So in the graph, there's nothing, but you will see I'll probably put it here. The area that is red is your total reserve needed. That's a 25% for 22 all the way to 2027. That's the amount of reserve we need to have. which means we cannot go below that reserve. Second line is the forecast fund balance. As you will see, is way above the actual reserve we need. Second line is the electric fund balance, taking $4 out of the service charge. So the reduction, you will see a reduction, but still way above what is actually needed. That's a minimum. Second line is your rate reduction. That's a 2% in 2023 and 2% in 2024. Still, you will see that the fund balance is still way above the 25% plus the capital reserve. The next line, which makes a big drop, is removing the PCA out of the electric bills. Still, that doesn't cut it. We're still way above the 25% plus the capital reserve. So if we add the three, the reduction in rate, the reduction service charge, and the reduction PCA, we come up with the fourth line. And you will see that from 2022 to 2024 remains flat. There's no increase. After 2024, due to the capital improvement program, it decreases and it stays slightly above the minimum reserve that we need.
And this is, the lines are to be what our funds coming in from people paying their electric.
Correct.
So,
Forecast.
forecast, yeah, correct. But we have to stay above the red line, above the red. And with these cuts, we will still stay above the red. We will have money.
Until
to pay for
2027,
stuff.
yeah.
And
But if the fund balance decreases, won't 25% of that number decrease also? So you won't be able to maintain 25% of the fund balance.
But we are.
I know, but if you calculate 25% of the yellow line, you won't have the 3 million, the 10 million that you have today.
The yellow line is the forecast minus the countermeasures implemented to lower the balance.
Right, but in 2027, when the fund balance is around 10 million, your reserve balance of 25% of that would be reduced
No,
also.
The fund balance is what we're trying to get at 25%.
That's the
We're
rate.
not going off 25% of
how much we're
this
taking
graph.
in.
This whole graph needs to be the 25% of
So in other words, you're gonna take 25% of the blue line every time.
No,
No,
25% of the red line.
the red line is what
Is the 25%.
is the
The
25%.
red line is the area, that's the 25% that we need.
Right.
That
But
we
you
need to
take-
keep as a
you
reserve.
calculate 25% of the fund balance.
No.
So as the fund fluctuates, that 25% number, not the
No.
percentage, but
No,
the
you said-
25% of what operating expenses?
25% of the actual, like I said, out of the, maybe I don't, not, so.
The way I read this is the red, your total reserve, that's what you need to
Operate,
operate and have equipment and buy stuff, what we need. Your 25% reserve is 25% of the red.
the
So
25%.
if it's a 10 million, you need, like you said.
Correct.
is,
25.
it is the rate.
The red
Right.
includes 25% plus your capital reserve.
Correct.
So the red
okay.
is the
So-
25%.
No, we said 25% plus the reserve.
Okay,
Well,
right. So 25% plus, what, 3.5
3
mil,
million.
right? So, right,
Calculate.
so the 25% is coming off of his ability to pay for equipment, pay for the guys, pay for
included in
those,
the red.
right, those things, we have this fund
Mhm.
to pay for those things in an emergency, right?
Correct.
That's the idea. So the 25% that we need to meet is the big red block,
Right,
okay? The blue line is where we're at now,
right.
and these other lines are where it can drop to. And the
Right.
yellow is where we can drop by doing all
All
of those
three,
things.
correct.
So,
Correct.
so if you look at that yellow line, the growth in the city, more rooftops, more revenue, by reducing the rate, we would just maintain it at where it is now.
We'd still be making the money we need.
Yeah.
We'd be saving money for the people because they're gonna have cheaper electricity and we're still able to pay our bills.
I guess what I'm confused, you say you take the 10 million,
Yeah, that was just an example.
right, okay, the example, the 10 million. Let's say it was calculated as 25%
Let me get it.
of the total fund balance.
So let's go, it's about 16 million. That's 0.25. 16 million. A little more, 16.
I guess where I'm confused is like if you take the very beginning of the line, where it's
Uh-huh.
about 16 million.
That's
So
where we're
let's
at.
take
So
25%
what is
of that.
25, what is 25% of 16 million?
Right.
It's 4
No,
million.
no.
This 25 is confusing, I think.
I
So-
think it is too.
Right. But you're taking, you're trying to take the 25% within itself, and that's where you're not looking at it right.
The lines are how much money we're getting from people.
Right.
I know.
And right now, 2022, this is where we're at.
Mhm.
This is where we're supposed to be. So we have
We made a lot more money.
we have an extra
Oh, I understand
almost
that.
10 million in there.
I understand.
Right. Okay. So the 25% is off of your everyday operating expenses, right?
Which is in the red.
So if you were gonna go buy $100 worth of stuff at Walmart, you gave yourself 25% extra, right? You'd have one pocket with a $100 bill, and you'd have a 20 and a 5 in the other. You're not doing the 25% off the pocket with the 25 in it. You're
Right.
doing it off the other pocket.
Oh, I understand that. I
Okay.
guess my question is, when you say 25%, how are you calculating that?
Operating
25, and what is the operating expenses?
The red. That's how much they need every year
Well-
to do their stuff.
No. The red is 25% of the operating expenses. We don't have a slide showing the operating expenses.
I thought the red was operating.
No,
That's the
It,
reserve.
that's
25% is the money we need to have to pay bills in case of an emergency. And also it includes the 3+ million to do any repairs to the gas turbines. And there, I mean, and I didn't want to get into the nuts and bolts, but it's several spreadsheets that have that information.
Okay,
So I thought that just by going graphically, that will be easier to understand.
We're not accountants
Can,
technically.
can you just say what is the total operating budget for the electric department for 1 year?
Total.
In round numbers.
for this year.
I will say close to 10 million. That's the operating budget, 10 million.
Okay, so
But what would be the fund balance this year?
Then the fund balance is whatever, you have your revenues minus your operating expenses. Then you subtract then you get a number, that's the balance. Then that balance, you have to eat to the previous balance you have at the beginning of the year.
And that's what's forecast in
That's the
red.
forecast in blue.
Blue,
Mhm.
the revenue, okay. But
So-
the red is the reserve forecast.
So,
The blue is the fund, what I call a fund balance. That means the money we have at a
Right, so-
given year.
let me put numbers to what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if we have an approximately 10 million in the reserve, not including the capital reserve, let's just say 10 million. 25% of, to get to 10 million, we would have had to have 40 million in electric fund balance to get to the 25 million, to the 10 million.
40 million of operating expense.
Right. Well,
You
of
said fund
electric-
balance,
Well,
and that's,
electric fund balance like he has here on the
right,
screen.
but the 25% is the fund, right? You're not doing 25% of the fund. 25% is the fund, so it's 25% of all your operating expenses, right?
Of
So
your-
if you're spending $40 million and you had a fund set aside with 25%, 25%, that extra account, that fund is the 10 million.
Right.
Right.
But the calculation would start at 40 million times 25 equals 10.
Right.
So the 40 million is what I was trying to get at. What is that number?
Right. So, if it's,
40 million, that'll
This
be 25%.
this is like 10 million minus the 3 million, so 7 is what should be in the fund. So 7, 14, 28 million dollars.
So it doesn't, there's more in it, but let's go on 2022, you have 16 million. So 16 million, 25% is $4 million, correct?
Right?
Times 3 million on the capital reserves, that bring it up to 7.
Ah, okay.
Now, there's
That
something
makes
else
more
on that
sense.
number that makes it at 9. But that's what the 25 plus the capital reserve. The number is 20% of your fund balance plus your capital reserve.
Right. Okay, I got it now.
Does this,
That makes more sense.
does this rate reduction proposal include anything for commercial?
None.
How do commercial and industrial rates compare to our peer communities?
That's in the 2018 rate study. I don't have that information with me. But we're not doing anything with the commercial. Whatever was said in 2020 remains going forward.
Okay, so you're saying by these graphs that we could do all three of the rate
Correct. The three
Figures.
countermeasure initiatives.
and still be in good shape for at least 5 years?
Correct. Now, the idea is that at the end of every year, we'll look at the number and see if the actuals meet our forecast. And if it does,
Yeah, that's always important.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where I was going for at the very beginning is that you might need to adjust the 25% percentage number. Because if your electric fund balance in 2027 is down to $10 million, you're gonna have 25% of 10 million instead of 25% of 40 million. So you might have to adjust the percentage as the years go by too.
Well, might have to adjust it up.
Yeah.
Because inflation, as equipment gets more expensive,
Right.
We might not have enough of it.
I did want to ask, on the forecast here, there's kind of a little spike in 2025 where on the red, is there a anticipation in 2025 of?
I don't have I don't have the spreadsheet to tell you what
Okay,
driving it up.
gotcha.
But there was a 3.2% increase on that red line to account for any inflation.
A what percent increase?
3.2%.
Okay.
It would seem to me that given operating operating expenses annually would go up because of wage adjustments and inflation and whatnot. And 3.2% might be the right number, but the graph shows it's going down in 23 and 24. Shouldn't that? This is.
24, 25.
No, he's talking about the red.
I'm talking about the red graph. Wouldn't it, seems like it would not go down for 2 years. Seems like it would be steadily increasing. But this is a projection based on current and projected
So we look
revenues,
at
correct?
2018, 2019, no, sorry. 2019, 2020, 21, those are your actuals. So based on that, you do a forecast for the 23 to 27, 5 years. So everything is based on your past performance or your past numbers.
Okay.
And it's a forecast, it's not,
I guess what you're saying is since the electric fund balance went up in those 2 years, 23 and 24, you would think the reserve would go up too. Is that what you're saying? For those 2 years?
Well, yeah, you would. Seems like to pay salaries and all expenses for a year, seems like that would have to go up each year.
not necessarily.
But, I mean, we're just ballparking here, so I don't have the numbers, so maybe it
I think-
was too high in 22.
Right, so 22 to 23 obviously went down on this graph. 23 to 24 looks
Went up
pretty
slightly.
level, or even a slight increase, right? And then more of an increase from 24 to 25. So I think you're on the up incline to account for the inflation, the increased salaries, the
Right.
more expensive
Because
parts and widgets.
27, you're back up to 9 million, 9.1 or something, which is higher than it is in 22.
Yeah.
So obviously there's an increase overall. And that can be adjusted fairly easily. What is required can the city council just change the rate? Is that all it's required? It's not required to be approved by the state or?
No, the city council can increase or decrease the rate.
Say again?
City council can increase or decrease the electric rates or any utility rates.
Okay. Well, I think that it'd be great to reduce the rates.
I like those ideas. If I can, is there any more discussion about the ones that he presented or the graph before I
You have more.
go
graph?
into my next
The next one was,
discussion?
staff recommendation is to support implementation of the electric fund reduction countermeasures to city council.
So before we do that, I would like to bring up
Oh.
something. So, in my hometown, the utility is not through the city, through a private entity. So whether or not there's laws and regulations about what I'm about to say, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but they do have a program that can help out homeowners, and what they do is, if you a homeowner needs a new HVAC system, they'll do water heaters, they'll do different things, and essentially there's a second mortgage put on the house, right? A lien. So I almost said city, the power company is paying for that new HVAC system, because that's a big purchase, right? How many people in Gardner, might want a new HVAC that's more efficient than their 20-something-year-old system, but they don't, can't shell out the money or whatever. I don't know. So anyway, the utility is paying for that. The homeowner's getting the benefit. The city utility company, essentially gets the benefit, and it's paid back through utility bills. I like the idea, but I don't know. I want to
That may
break it
be
up.
great if it's a third party, but what you're doing, what you're suggesting here is that the other ratepayers of Gardner buy new equipment for a few people in Gardner. Because the people own the system. So what you give to one, you take away from someone else.
Not following.
You're not following?
Oh, I do.
Oh,
I follow what you're
All right.
Well,
So,
okay.
okay,
If,
go ahead.
say I have an old house with
Yeah.
inefficient equipment,
Mhm.
so I come to you and I say, I want you to buy me a new piece of equipment. Why would you want to do that?
So, right, essentially, what you're saying there, I get, but this is set up so that they go in and they do an efficiency study in your house, right? They put a big fan in the door and they do different things and they set everything and they move some air around and they test it for efficiency. And then they figure out what a new system would do to the house, right? So then they put the new system in. So now my utility bill went from, say it went from $200 a month because of my old system down to $100, okay? So I've saved $100, but I'm paying back that loan that I took for the new system. So now instead of paying $100, I'm paying $125 or $150, and I'm paying that back over a period of time. So I'm still paying for it, or rather, whoever owns the house is paying for it. Because in how they do it is that the loan is attached to the house and not the individual.
No,
So it's still getting
You're
paid
paying
back.
for it in your electric bill.
Yeah.
You saved money with paying a smaller electric bill, but they add on an extra surcharge to repay what they did.
Right. So nobody's getting it for free.
Okay, I get it, but now
Okay.
you've got the city into
Ab-
financing.
No, I totally get it, right?
And at what point, I mean, if you're talking about a water heater, that's one thing. But in my experience, and I've done these audits and I understand what's involved, insulation for the house is probably the biggest need.
And
So do we get into the I'm just saying.
right, and again,
You
to
need
my
to build a
point,
box around it. If you do, make it pretty tight so that.
right, so this, like I said, this, back home, it's not the city providing the utility, it's a separate entity, so they can do what they want, right? You're not getting into to your point, the city isn't now involved in all these things. They do, like I said, HVAC, water heater, they get into the insulation. There's some
So-
other things, that they do to help improve the efficiency of your home, the comfort of your home, to a benefit of
And
the
all of
customer, but
that-
also a benefit of them.
All of that is good for the city. I mean, if everybody had a more efficient
Right. Yeah.
system, it would be good. And the problem, as I see it, I won't be here to deal with it, but as I see it, the problem is in the implementation of everything. I mean, it just adds another layer of complexity.
It does.
Who does the audit? Who pays for the audit? I'm just thinking out loud. Who pays for all of this up front?
Yeah.
Because if people had the money to pay for it up front, they would maybe have,
Right.
maybe not.
I mean, obviously, like in that instance, the audit is done in-house from that utility company.
Right.
They have
And we
a person-
used to do them with the utility I retired from, we did them.
Yeah.
But, see, we were a state regulated utility and we could recover those costs through the rate making process.
Mhm.
So the state wanted it done, we did it. It was a revenue neutral thing to us. We did it only because the regulators wanted it done.
Right. So,
here, I'm not sure there's anybody, I guess, well, I guess we're the regulators. That is the citizens.
So the funds that would be used to purchase the improvements at the customer's home would come from the electric fund?
Well,
That
I
is-
don't
that
know
is
that
funded
that's
by
true,
customers.
but that would be a potential. I'm seeing the numbers, we're discussing different things to do with this electric fund balance, and I just wanted to bring it up for discussion and see whether or not anybody else was interested in continuing to talk about the idea, or if you just want to tell me no, then we'll leave it be. But we're on a discussion item, so.
Based on what little experience I've had, I think that would have to be contracted out to a third party. I don't think we have staff to do that in-house, right?
No, we don't have.
So we're kind of limited here because a larger utility can spread those costs over many communities. You know, you can have a staff of 10 and they're taking care of 20 communities. Here, where you have a limited staff, that would mean adding staff and some other kinds of logistical problems. I mean, that would be a big problem.
Right, I'm obviously, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, take this to city council tonight. Obviously, it's
No.
a very loose.
And I understand what you're
idea.
saying, and I'm not as
And
against it as it may sound. I'm just saying, I think
I just
there's a
wanted to
lot of other
clarify.
problems.
yeah, no,
that-
obviously, right, there's a lot of components of it to work through. I just wanted to float it to see if there's an interest in as a potential to work through some of these problems and figure out how we could implement it if anyone thought it might be worth it. Gons, you haven't said anything. What do you? No? Thumbs down?
Personally, I
the-
think it's opening up a whole big can of worms.
Fair enough.
For the size of our city. I would not be against something, something that helps out people that are struggling and stuff like that. But an undertaking like that just opens up a big can of worms that I don't know if the city have the staffing it able to do right now.
Something we can do is we can ask Gons and his staff to look into it and see if there's something that they would think would be feasible to do a study. If you wanna do that.
I'm asking the three of you.
What you're talking about, I wouldn't be for.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I would not for problems that have been, not that I don't think it's a good idea, I just don't think we're big enough to do that yet. And I think the best money is spent reducing the rates of everybody right now, because I hear that, I see that on the internet a lot about the high rates of Gardner. Now, I don't think they're that high.
We're lower than, that was loud, we're lower than Evergy.
Yeah.
I didn't know where that came from. I told you.
But 10.3 cents or whatever it is, that's not a high rate if you look at national rates. That's not the lowest, but it's certainly a competitive rate for residential particularly. But I think we'd be better off lowering the existing rates, get them more in line, and then see what's feasible down the road.
And I think it's a good idea also, but I would not be for funding it from the electric fund. I would think that we would need to get a third party to fund it instead of funding it from the electric fund.
Okay.
Then the other comment I'd like to add is, if for some reason the trend starts going below the minimum, you can always reinstate the service charge in the PCA with fairly, with little work. It's a tool that we can always reinstate fairly easily. So you have to do a study to determine, just put it back in place and see where things take us. So the reason we chose those, we thought it was a low-hanging fruit. Something that we can manage fairly easy. Take it out or reinstate it at a later time.
Well, personally, I like the service charge reduction because that impacts low income or people that struggle to pay their bills. That impacts them greater than high income or high users because it's something that's applied to everyone, so that that's an immediate reduction, not based on usage. So I think that and the rate reduction are really great ideas, particular for people that are struggling. The PCA maybe, I think that I'm for that. I'm not against it, but I wondered if maybe instead of eliminating it, what if you put a cap on it? What is it now, $4?
The base rate is 5.5 cents.
What if you capped it at $2 or something that would help recover costs, but not seriously impact rates? That wouldn't be a particularly hard thing to do, would it?
I'll need to get with Amy and run the numbers. I don't have that information.
Well, it would be, you'd have I don't know, I guess we need to think about that, but.
So why?
Huh?
Why are you saying to keep the PCA as opposed
Power
to
cost adjustment, like when we had to
Right.
buy that gas last
Right.
winter.
What I'm asking is why are you using? I don't understand why you're saying to keep it but lower it instead of just getting rid of it.
Well, it would give you more revenue to do other things like you're suggesting. It went, I don't know what the real numbers are, but something like from 50 cents to $4 in a month or two.
Right.
What if
Right.
you capped it at $2 or $1.75, some number that lets it float and lets it reflect actual costs, but doesn't have the impact that the $4 had, because that's pretty serious when it's like 200% of what it was or something. I'm making up numbers now, so that but that just occurred to me when I was looking at what if it were just capped instead of eliminated entirely, or maybe for a couple of years and see what it does.
Would it be possible for us to see the previous screen? So we eliminate the PCA completely and then reduce the service charge by $4. But you're saying instead of eliminate the PCA, just reduce it.
Yeah, cap it so it can't get above a certain amount. What was it before the large gas increase?
Well, the PCA is you have a base, which is 5 cents.
How much?
5 cents, 5.5, I believe, is the base. So when you get we purchase new generation, then you get a 12-month average. And then you calculate how much you pay by your customers, and that gives you a cost of what we actually pay. Then the number is compared to the 5.5. If the number calculated is greater, you're gonna pay additional on your bill. But if that number is less, then you'll get a credit.
Well,
I'm not sure if, I need to talk with Amy, but I'm not sure if we can come up with a number at this point.
well, let's say you went back to, well, first of all, you have to want to do it. And I'm not against eliminating it, but I was just thinking if you went back to, you know, it fluctuated a little for several years. It wasn't drastic swings. Go back and look at what those numbers were and say double whatever that was. You know,
The reductions, the PCA, the reduction was based on the trend over the past 3 years. So that's where we came up with that reduction. It's an average based on the past 3 years.
okay.
We didn't go to the actual number and calculate it. It was just based on, it was charged for the past 3 years and come up with a number that we used for the forecast.
Let me try another attack here. What if the PCA could not increase more than 10% per year?
So again, when you say 10% of what?
Next year, it can't be more than 10% of this year's.
Yeah, the PCA varies every month.
Is what?
The PCA varies every month.
Right. Okay, forget I said anything, let's just eliminate it.
Oh.
I don't think it'll be that easy to determine.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, like you can get a home mortgage that won't increase more than a certain percentage. Why couldn't you do that with the PCA? Say it can't increase more than 10% of the average for the past 12 months, or some number that your staff makes up and likes.
Okay, like I said, I need to talk with Amy so we can run those numbers.
Well, it's just an idea. You could maybe doodle around with the numbers and see if something you like, or eliminate it. I like eliminating all of these myself, but I'm just wondering, well, as you pointed out, we can always increase those numbers also.
You can reinstate the
Yes.
those items. Yeah.
Okay.
The service charge and the PCA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can we go back to the next screen? No, let's see. Oh, the one where you were just at. No, the one before that.
With the red at the bottom?
No, this one.
Oh, no, this one.
This
Okay.
says, in an effort to maintain a 25% fund balance and to offset Now, I just want to make sure I'm clear. That 25% calculation, the number you come up when you calculate 25%, you're calculating 25% of the fund balance. Okay. So if the fund balance reduces dramatically, will that number then reduce also that you're keeping in reserve? I think you need to consider adjusting the 25% number so that you can maintain the reserve that you need.
I think the 25% stays consistent because it's based on what you need to pay your expenses.
I just want to make sure that you maintain the amount that you need, like the 10 million, whatever it is that you need.
So you will see over here,
So problem was that the way the sentence was worded on there. You said 25% of the fund balance, right? But again, the 25% is the fund balance,
Right,
right? So you're not doing 25% of itself. You're 25% of operating expenses.
right. Right.
Okay.
And as operating expenses fluctuate, you might want to consider fluctuating the 25% calculation to maintain the reserve again.
But if my operating expenses go from 10 million to 15 million, and I'm keeping 25%, the 25% has increased as it goes up anyway.
But if it goes down, I'm not going to reduce my savings, I'm gonna just keep it there and I'll just have a bigger buffer.
As long as, the rate study indicates that even if it does go below 25%, you're not gonna reduce the reserve. I would just be concerned that your reserve is not reduced.
No, it won't. And that's what I'm trying to show here, that even with the initiative implemented, you still have the reserves available.
Okay.
You're not eating your reserves. That's what I was trying to show here, that with the yellow line or gold, you still,
Pending we have to use the reserves for the purpose, right?
correct,
Right? Like there's a huge emergency and we have to use those by 2027 where we're almost leveled out. Now we've depleted it. Now we have to build that fund back up.
again, correct.
But within the next 5 years, we'll be fine.
Based on the forecast.
Then there'll be a different board sitting up here that has to figure that out.
We don't want that to happen either.
I have a question on that previous slide. What has wastewater got to do with the electric rates?
So we're starting the engineering design for expanding Kill Creek. In order to
To do what?
expand
Oh,
Kill
expand
Creek,
Kill Creek, okay.
in order to expand Kill Creek, you have to increase your wastewater rates.
Well, why would you, what, are electric
There-
system funds being used for?
No?
Now,
So
if
the
you
idea
read
is
it-
that since the wastewater is gonna go up on in your utility bill,
They're decreasing.
the idea is to
electric
decrease,
Okay.
to level
the-
it out.
Right?
Okay.
to
So
offset.
we're gonna give a break in electric, but wastewater's gonna go up. So
Yeah.
realistically, it's
It will
gonna be
be,
neutral.
Correct, that's the idea.
That's it.
Okay.
So people
Alright.
would see too much in their bill, they're paying less than
Yeah.
electric.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it'll
So-
be net zero, because one is gonna go down, the other one's gonna go up. That's the intent.
I like it.
I think we're good.
So it's a discussion item, so
Can we go to the next screen?
we need
Next
a-
one,
The next one, the next screen?
So discussion item actually a motion?
It says to support the implementation of the electric fund reduction countermeasures to city council.
Yeah, but it's not under new business, it's just under discussion item, so I don't know if that requires a motion.
I can bring it again next meeting as a new business.
Do you want action on it tonight?
That was the intent,
Is it allowed to?
I'm not sure. Because in the past, any discussion, we had to bring the next meeting, we brought it back to the commission to make a motion.
Do I have the draft copy and maybe there's a different one where it's moved up under new business? I'm just trying to save time.
Actually, this presentation was put together yesterday because I didn't have the information. So it told me
So
you have
I-
to present something, and so,
I think we do support the implementation of the electric fund reduction to the city council, but we're asking, do we need to have a motion to do that?
I'm not sure.
She's looking up whether or not we can do it under, since it's not under new business. So. While we're sitting here waiting, Gons, I'll ask. When we were going through all that, I got logged into the utility billing on my phone. I was trying to see the PCA, and I can't see that on the website. Or I'm not smart enough to figure out how to get to the true breakdown. I could just see the total electric cost. Is that something that would be possible for us to get in the future as a better breakdown?
Regarding the IntelliHome or your actual,
I was just on the city website, the city billing website, and I logged in, and I saw my electric, my water, my wastewater, but like when I clicked on the electric, I could never get to a point that had the same amount of detail that the actual bill that shows up to my house has. So I couldn't see my PCA cost.
let me look into that.
Yeah. Obviously, I didn't expect an answer, but yes, if we could look into maybe getting more detail on there or something.
Okay.
This doesn't say it, but it says when commission action is required, and it says since that is not
The question is, can you do it through a discussion or it has to be a new business?
Yeah, my Robert's Rules of Orders are a little fuzzy. Been well over a decade.
Well, like all deliberative bodies, we can suspend the rules and do whatever we want to do.
What, do you think it would get adopted, or,
Might.
yeah, do you,
You have a Robert's Rules of Orders book with you? I love it. That's what I'm gonna ask for Christmas. My mom was like, "What do you want?" I'm like, "I don't know."
I could think of many electronic devices I would prefer rather than that.
Yeah, like a national electric code or something important.
Yes.
I have that.
Oh.
Roberts.
You have a nice like leather bound set right up there on the mantle.
There you go.
Well, I'm not familiar with the Robert,
Pretty thick book to look through in 30 seconds.
especially if it's a very small print. So this item is going to city council in February. So I think we still have time until
Okay.
next month to make a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure.
So, yeah, so we'll look at that next month. So then we are looking at implementing these changes then still in 2023?
Will be February or March 2023.
Okay.
So when these changes, this rate study changes are implemented, would you be implementing the quasi-net metering?
Correct. So
Okay.
in order to implement this, there has to be a ordinance. And when I presented the quasi-net metering, they agreed that that was the way to go.
Okay.
But
that'll be
then we need to
February,
be added to the actual ordinance to have changed the renewable rate.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
they had that little clip of you sharing that with city council on YouTube, but they didn't have the full the council meeting. I thought that was odd, but yeah, I did see that you presented that to them, so
they
always
approved
gonna-
it.
Yeah,
Correct.
they gave a shout out telling you guys, so, good job.
Okay, so we'll move on to project updates.
Yeah, I have a few regarding the electric. We have new development or businesses coming in. There is a Prairie Trace Straightway Apartments, which is on the other side of the highway. And we're about 50% complete with the electric infrastructure. Then Lake of Conestoga, which is south of Conestoga or west of Conestoga, we have completed the installation of all the infrastructure. Then we have the new Panda Express next to Walmart. We're about 95% with the installation of the electric.
How much percent?
95.
95?
And there's a new Frontier Community Credit Union next to the new Quick Trip, and is completed. Then I have another. Can you go to the UAC folder? There is the November reliability index.
Yes. So you have that.
So for November, the site is 0 minutes, the KID 94 minutes, the ASI 100%, the Muffy we had 0, the SciFi 0.004,
Technology. Looks like you're good now.
then interruptions only 22 customers, and the interruptions per mile is less than 0.348. Year to date, we're below our targets except for the MAFI, which is interruptions per year. That's momentary interruptions. So we're running slightly high on that one.
But did you say that's also calculating in those like half a second, millisecond
Correct.
interruptions that really nobody notices anyway?
Correct, but this is based on what I'm getting from the Eco One system.
So,
But yes, so what I was trying to show is that we're hopefully meeting our targets except for one, based on the information is being processed by NextGrid. Any questions?
How do you intend to improve that one?
I will have to make changes to the actual report that NextGrid is doing. So as mentioned before, they're using their own methodology, and they agree that they need to go with the IEEE or the APPA standard until so they're gonna be adopting the standard. So until then, I'm just reporting the numbers they're putting out. Even those numbers, still we're meeting our targets except for the momentary interruptions, which is I think a glitch in their system, but they don't want to recognize that. And that's all I have as far as updates.
Does anyone have any questions? question. There was some electric outages, I think, in November, and it seemed like it would spotted households. Was that a result of the smart meters?
It is not. So as part of the options or functionalities we have with the smart meters, using the Eco1 software, you can turn off a group of meters. During the winter, you cannot shut off the power, is my understanding. But you can shut it off for 15 minutes and then turn it on and shut it off for 15 minutes. So that feature, they were testing it back in November. They were testing 1 meter, but there's also a button that is all the meters. So it was a mistake done, and the person pushed the all meters, so he started a chain of turning off every single meter in the city. When they pressed the button, they realized they made a mistake, and they tried to revert the action. But it took about 1,000 meters of customers out of service. So then they had to manually restore every single meter.
So do we have some kind of protection over that button?
So this was on the test, so this was done in a test mode. NextGrid says that once it's going in production, it will be a warning. Are you sure you want to disable 10,000, 9,000 customers? So that will be implemented
Seems like a good warning.
Yeah.
So when will that be implemented?
as soon as that feature is available. So they were testing it, and they were testing 1 customer, but they disabled several customers. It's not that the meter it was a human error.
Well, we learn from what we do, right? I have one other question. I have in my notes that we have a capital improvement project called Wynwood Park Relief Sewer in
Right.
2023. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in order to expand Keel Creek, the, what's the name? The collection system on that part of town, which goes across Wynwood Park, we need to upgrade the sewer line so we can handle additional flow. So that project is upgrading the line so additional wastewater can be pumped to Keel Creek once we have the capacity. So basically, we're upgrading the sanitary sewer system for additional capacity. And
That
that's
hasn't started yet though, right?
2023 will start.
Okay. How long do you expect that to take?
That should be done in 1 year.
All right. Any other questions?
Good.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made by Williams, seconded by Augustine, that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
My last motion.
Right, yeah. Okay, I'd let you have
That's
it.
good. We're gonna miss you.